Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me, and I have a phenomenal guest. We're going to have so much fun. Okay, let me just tell you guys this. I think we have like a 15-minute head start of just being goofy. Okay, most of it might have been me. It's okay, Chynna. I will take the rap on that one. Anyway, so we're going to have a fun conversation. I'm super excited to bring her to you guys. I think that we're going to touch base on a lot of things, from pivots and just things that we've gone through, but also going to give you guys some strategies and stuff that you can do in your business. I think it's still going to transition over to people's lives and everyday things that we can do. So I am super excited to dive into this. I am a huge strategy person and I love when we brainstorm. My little fingers. Anyway, so Chynna, do us all a favor then. Tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, thank you so much. I'm Chynna. I am a online business manager and integrator for multi-six and seven-figure business owners, primarily in the creative space. So I basically partner with CEOs to help them run literally everything on the back end of their business and to help them basically take the load of the back end operations off of them so that they can focus on selling, they can focus on the greater vision of what it is that they want to do with their companies while I help them integrate everything that they want to do with that vision on the back end. And that includes things like team management, project management, launch management, metrics tracking, automations, all the things. So it's a lot of fun. It's a big challenge, but it's great. I love it. The nerdy side of me could not get enough.
I love that. And I feel like every single one of us could use a manager like you in our back corner. Like even in my daily life, I'm like, if I had somebody that would just be like, hey, this is what you need to do, and we're going to take care of this, and I can just like check in, that would be phenomenal. But anyway, and then that comes with delegation and other things as well, which I mean, you don't have to have a business to be able to delegate, right? That's something that you should be thinking about doing all the time is, what really matters to me, what's going to push me forward in a direction that I want to go or I want to grow. And then from that, how do we kind of figure out what I can do to hand off to someone else or, provide a solution to make life easier? One of the first things that I did, one in my business, I hired a virtual assistant to help with my podcast and stuff, which has been amazing because it takes a lot of load off of me and I get to do what I love to do, right? Which is just talk. And then on top of that, once the business started growing as well, I was like, you know what? I work so much during the day and I enjoy my weekends. I don't want to clean house anymore. So I hired a cleaner. Best decision ever. Just FYI out there. And it's wonderful because I know that every 2 weeks someone is going to come in and spiff my house up and make it smell all good. And I didn't have to do anything. And that to me means I get hours back in my personal time, which has been totally worth the payout.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that you have to I talk about auditing your time a lot and being mindful of where you're investing your time, right? Because
Mm.
once you reach a certain point in your personal life and your business life, it isn't it quite literally dollar for dollar is not worth your time to be doing those tasks anymore. It probably wasn't worth your time to be cleaning your office every 2 weeks. It probably wasn't worth your time to be editing your podcast every week, right? And that's a lot of the conversations that I end up having with clients is like, this isn't necessarily something you should be doing. Now, if you love doing it, I'm a huge advocate that if it lights you up every single week whenever you sit down to do it, you should not delegate it because we are not delegating so that we remove the joy from what it is that we do, right? We're delegating so that we
Mm,
can either say goodbye to the things we loathe doing or we're gaining back time so that we can focus on other things. And that goes across the board, both in personal and business life. But it's really taking a step back. And this is something I help people with all the time of taking a step back and saying, what are those things, right? Because I think a lot of times we're not sure what we should delegate or who we should trust it with once we decide we are going to delegate it. You know, making those
100%.
decisions is really challenging whenever you're like, okay, I know I need help, but like what kind of help do I need? And figuring that out. So that is a big ongoing conversation with a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Like, who do you trust? What do I even delegate? Where do I even start? Do I do the small task? Do I do the larger task? And I think the other thing that comes in as well, and I know that I've done this both in business and my personal life is, but I want to make sure that it's done right. So
Hmm.
there's an act, there's that piece of control of like holding on to it. And I know that, sorry guys, mainly us women, and I know there's some dudes out there that fit in this profile, but we're so used to handling everything to begin with that we feel like that's what we're supposed to do. And then when somebody's like, oh, but you could just give this to someone, we're like, oh, no, 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 because if they don't do it this way, then I'm going to have anxiety that it wasn't done this way. And so there's a lot of pieces and components to that in itself feels like it's more anxiety than it's worth handing to someone. But I promise you, like, if you can just think of what it might look like to have those hours back. My podcast, for example, I was spending 4 to 5 hours a week doing editing and the layouts and the graphics and everything else. And while, yes, I had a lot of things that were templated, which helped, there's still a lot that has to be done, right? And I was really worried because I'm like, my gosh, my podcast is my baby, and like I don't want anyone to screw that up. And so it was putting metrics and certain things in place where it was like, okay, until I'm comfortable with you having complete control, this is the way that I do it. And I want you to get comfortable doing it this way first. Once you learn it and you want to tweak it a little bit, by all means, go for it. And then we put parameters in place for approval processes, right? When she got to a certain space, she had to send it to me to approve. That made me feel better. And now that she's been doing it for over 6 months, it's like, oh yeah, you're good. No, that's fine. Yeah, that's totally fine. That's fine. I'll read over documents and check some of that stuff, but I know that she's got it because we've had enough conversations that she understands how I operate. She knows what it is that I'm looking for. And the delegation now, it's like, okay, I know that she's got things taken care of. Do I check in every once in a while? Well, by all means, because in my personal opinion, it's my business. And I do think that, and I'd love your opinion on this, China. Even when we delegate out, even when we hand stuff over to someone and say, okay, please just take care of it. I do think that there is an aspect of check-ins, right? Where we come back as the owner and say, okay, I just want to do an audit or I just want to do a check-in. I want to see this, and this. I want to make sure things have been going the way they're supposed to. Because, right, even the people that you hire, things happen, life shifts, they were really dedicated, and then something falls out. So you need to be aware of that. And you can't be aware of it if you remove yourself from something so much that you're like over here in the mountains and they're down here in the valley handling it. And then when something blows up in your face, you're like, well, I don't understand.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I'm so happy that you touched on the trust factor because that is one of the biggest things that I tell people whenever you're going to delegate anything, make sure that one, the person, of course, can do the skills that it is that you need help with, but two, like really talk to the person and see if like you get a good vibe, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? Like, see if they're easy to talk to, see if you feel like you can trust them because you're gonna be talking to them a lot. You're gonna be working with them on an ongoing basis. You probably
Hmm.
talk to your podcasting VA at least once a week, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I talk to my clients 3 to 5 times a week, right? Like every day of the working week. So that trust factor, like because I'm so happy that you use that verbiage too, because I use it all the time. Like you're handing over your baby, right? And you want to know that like you're giving this trusted person your baby and that you know that like, yeah, there's gonna be a learning curve at the beginning, like you said with your
Oh,
VA,
yeah.
you know, like you went through that learning phase, but at the same time, like you feel comfortable taking that risk with your baby, right? And
Yep.
so that piece is so important. And I completely agree on touching base along the way. So there's that learning phase, there's that learning curve of that first like 60 to 90 days. Whenever that person is learning a lot and absorbing a lot in the first 30, that 60 to 90 is where they can kind of take ownership, or at least I would expect them to take ownership of more and maybe
Hmm.
do some of the things like you said, now that you understand the foundation that I have built, if you have recommendations for me or if you want to do it a different way, tell me, let's talk about it. I'm open to
Yeah.
ideas. That's where you start to reach that point. But 6 months down the road, you shouldn't have to feel like you need to listen to every podcast recording or review every blog post that your team is drafting for you or reviewing every single SOP. Or if you're unfamiliar, standard operating procedure, that's online business manager jargon. Um, so you do need to check in because what I've seen happen is you want your team to feel empowered to take that ownership, but at the same time, you need to make sure that the standards and the guidelines that you've put in place are also being followed. And there is a fine line, I guess, between like checking in and micromanaging because you don't need to nitpick everyone.
Yes.
There needs to be that trust factor there, but there is guidelines and SOPs and things that you are putting together to delegate for them or to provide to them whenever you delegate to them that you want them to be followed. So it's your responsibility, I do think, every once in a while, or your OBM, if you have someone in a leadership position on your team, to go back and check in and just be like, hey, is everything still rocking and rolling the way that I expect? And you can do that once a month, once every 3 months. And if everything still looks good, I regularly check in on my team members, and if everything looks good, I don't even say anything to them. I just let them keep going. And but if there's one or two things that I'm like, hey, I think we could tweak this or tweak that, like you are fully within your right as the business owner and as the person who is delegating and paying this person to help you to be like, hey, would you mind if we tweaked this or that? Because you have every right to understand what's going on in your business and to make modifications along the way. And your team should be open to that as well. Because now I'm going to go on a whole different tangent here, but that is something that I've seen a lot with contractors and with just team members in general is like, if you don't check in every once in a while, then once you do after a long while, then it's like, well, you've trusted me with this for so long. Why am I not doing it right now? Right.
Mm.
And that's just a part of a leadership perspective that you want to have that touch point. And you also want them to know that it is okay for you and it is okay for you to have that right to check in to ask for things to be done differently or ask questions as to why something's being done a certain way. And there shouldn't be resistance to that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think that, you touched on this that I think is really important, and that's communication, right? Communication as a whole is really important, but especially once you are adding people to your team, you want to make sure that, like you said, they feel like they're needed. They feel like they're doing good. They feel like they're a part of the team. What I have seen some people do is they're like, I kind of threw them into it and I was hoping they would figure it out, and then it didn't work out. And I'm like, well, that's because you didn't do your part, right? Like we didn't
Mhm.
lead them to give them the space. You just expected someone to come in and be a know-it-all. Which granted, there are some people that are out there that can do that, but that's not fair to them either. That you're just like, hey, it's a freaking mess, figure it out. And so I think that communication is a huge one, right? You should be,
Mhm.
and not even on a business level, you should be checking in on a personal level as well. Just like how is everyone doing? Because again, people shift, things happen in their life. I had an amazing VA for quite a while who helped with a lot of administrative stuff. And then all of a sudden I started noticing that things were kind of falling through the crack. And I was like, hey, is everything okay? And, I didn't say anything about like you didn't do this. I was like, hey, are you okay? Like, I know the level of work that you usually do, and I feel like something else is going on. And it was. She had a huge personal thing that was going on. They were moving. She was getting her kids from this area, and it was like all this stuff. And she thought that she could handle it. And I told her, I was like, do you need a break? Like, do you need to step back? And she was like, I feel so bad. And I was like, please don't. I said, because, what ends up happening is I think that things are getting taken care of. You keep doing it this way, trying to manage all the things, and then it ends up blowing up in everybody's face. You feel bad. I feel like you led me a different direction. Part of it's my fault for not communication. So it's really important to be having personal conversations with people, as well, so that they feel supported and understood. And then again, you can kind of tackle things in a different direction, right? Maybe a different role works for them, or maybe this workload could be shifted a little bit for now and they can keep doing this. And I also think that, the other piece and component as far as like bringing people in that I love is what you were talking about in the beginning is once you get it down, you can do it your way. Boy, does that open up the realm of possibilities for things that you never thought of, right? My VA, I've hit her with so many things, and I'm like, hey, so I'm thinking maybe we could do like something like this. And I am horrible at like trying to give a visual when it comes to creative stuff. Okay, it's just not my space. And she'll be like, yeah, hold on, give me a little bit. And like 2 days later, she'll be like, what do you think of this? I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. I would have never thought of that, So it's really kind of cool because it's like having additional brains that are working collectively, and you get so many more ideas and ways to do things differently or more efficiently or to shift that maybe didn't hit you because you are so blinders on in what you're doing that you're missing all those other pieces.
Absolutely. And you're empowering them by giving them the opportunity to do that. They're going to be stoked that you trust them enough to come to them and be like, hey, I kind of have this blurry vision of this thing that I want to do. You know, what do you think? They're going to really hear you because you came to them and you wanted their opinion. Like I'm really, really passionate about having a people first, human first approach to every person that I work with, whether it's a client or one of their team members, that it is approaching things from that personal level. Like going back to what you were saying about your VA who had some personal things going on, like the way that you approach that situation is exactly how I would have done it myself, right? Of like, it's not about like, hey, you're not doing your job. It's about
Hmm.
being like, hey, what's going on? Like talk to me. Like let's have a human real conversation because like yes, we're here to make money and we're all working, but like at the end of the day we're all humans and we all have things going on and chaos in our personal lives.
Yeah.
Let's acknowledge that and hear that and find a solution that works for everybody. And whenever things are going good, because you acted in that way in that moment, whenever you come back and again, you're like, I have this crazy blurry vision for this thing I want to do, that person trusts you so much and values your partnership so much that they're going to be thrilled to death that they have the opportunity to help you with this. And they're going to go that much harder on the thing that you're giving them the opportunity to go in on with you because they're happy to do it for you because they know that you care about them. They know that whenever you know, chaos ensues in life, you are going to be able to you're going to lift them up and you're going to lift them up not only then, but whenever times are bad, but whenever times are good too.
Yeah. And I love that, you said that it's human first, right? Because I think that we forget this, and this is both in personal and in business, is we get so caught up in whatever is going on with us that like we forget that other people are also dealing with things at the same time. Even my cleaning lady, which I'm blessed because I work from home, so I see her every time that she comes in. I always stop and talk with her. I always chat with her. She's got a little boy. We talk about, what she did with him. And it's just creating that connection, so that I can make sure that she feels like she is not just my cleaning lady. She's actually a person. Same thing when we had people that were cutting our yard. Like I got to know them when their business shifted. We knew about it. Cool, no big deal. Like I love what you're saying as far as creating this human experience and making sure that in whatever degree in our life that we're doing something. I don't care if you have someone that comes and runs errands for you, if you maybe have people that deliver your groceries, which by the way is the most amazing thing ever. We don't have time. I'm just saying, like, I do not step foot into a grocery store. I probably save so much money. But I do. Every time that somebody delivers, I make sure that I meet them at the door and say hi and how are you doing? Thank you so much. And just that little piece, because all of us are doing things on a day to day, and there are different times where every single one of us feel like we are not appreciated. We feel like we're doing the grind, we're doing the things, and nobody sees us. And I think it is so important that we bring in the human aspect of that and just make sure that people realize that we recognize them as a person first and then what business they're providing afterwards, which then kind of leads me into my next question. So you love the human aspect and helping people in their businesses and stuff. How on earth did you get to this point? Like where did this come from? How did we start?
Well, do you want the short version or the long version?
Oh, let's see. I don't know. We got some time. So
No. So I grew up in the hospitality industry, and I say grew up because I started whenever I was like 14, right? So I worked in customer service and hospitality for years on end, built my career there, learned everything there is to know about customer service. And by nature, and working in restaurants and hotels and everything else, you naturally work with a team of people and you're around not only customers, but your coworkers as well. And I kind of learned that I thrive in that environment from the get-go. And I went to university. I anticipated on staying in that industry and got into the wedding and event side of things because, long story short, I'm a details person, if you wouldn't have guessed. And
No.
I know. And I started my career there and I started just doing VA work on the side. And long story short, it spiraled out of control in the best way possible. And I quit my job 6 months later. And I worked with a lot of wedding pros, and I kind of found that very quickly, like I didn't just want to do the task, I wanted to help you do it better, or eliminate it completely by automating it so
Mm,
that neither one of us had to worry about it, you know? So, and that quickly brought me into the OBM role and kind of leaning into the work that I do now with creatives and people in the digital product space for the most part. But all of the skills that I learned, what feels like 150 years ago in the hospitality industry, it all kind of translated over whenever I started actually managing teams on behalf of my clients, right? Because
mm,
most of my clients have a podcast manager, they have a VA, they have, a copywriter, they have an admin VA, they have all these people, and they get inundated with like being pinged all the time in Slack of being like, where's this link? Where's that? Where's this? And
yep.
I not only, try to organize that for them to streamline that, but also I have the extra time and capacity and the skill set to check in with them on that human level because I work with people long term, and that's why I structure my services the way that I do, because I'm like, I don't want to just like come in and fix it and leave. I want to get to know your
Yeah.
people. I want to know that, this VA has a personal thing going on so that I can adjust her task load and make sure that she feels taken care of and make sure she feels empowered. Or, this person, they're a copywriter and they have been going deep on a long form sales page for us for this new product we're launching, and they told me they need 3 extra days to creatively process all of it. Great. Like, I want to be the person that like tells them that's not only okay that you need that, but I'm going to build the systems around that so that you have the freedom to do that. So all of that customer service and team management, just from the old hospitality days, all kind of transitioned into what I do now in creating time and space for the teams that I manage now.
Oh, and that's so beautiful that one, I love how it just like wee into the space that you're at. But I love that you noticed right away that like I want to make it better or eliminate it. I don't want to just be the task person, which is how I felt for a really long time on my business. Like I don't want to just do like yeah, I want to brainstorm, I want to create it, I want to make it better. And I think that that's a really cool thing to be aware of as you are growing through whatever it is you're doing, whether you're working for other people or if you're working for yourself, so that you can figure out where your zone of genius is, right? We always talk about the zone of genius, but being able to be in a place where you can do something that you love and it's something that's also helping other people. But I think it's really cool that it kind of gradually came from there. And kind of one of the things I feel like I need to point out to everybody that's listening is if you heard her, what she said was her tools and her skills from way back when she was using now, right? Because I think that whether you're working for someone in a specific industry or if you're on your own, we get stuck in what we think that we have the ability to do, and then we don't grow outside of it. So then we keep pushing and pushing because we're like, well, yeah, but I already know it. Yeah, but you're obviously bored and completely crushed by it. You can take any skills that you have prior to and use them to build something completely new in a totally different direction, right? I mean, like you said, hospitality, hotels, entrepreneurs and creatives, like, right? The completely opposite end of the spectrum. But I don't think that we're taught that enough. It is like the skills that I have are what's the word I'm looking for? Transferable. That was that word. I
Yep.
was like, man, the word was gone. But it's that was a really hard one for me too to kind of learn and understand because I was in the medical field before and I was like, I don't have anything in this regard. But when I really think about it, like, yeah, I do. I did a lot of training, I did a lot of layouts, I did a lot of teaching and stuff, and I use that now to my advantage now, which is a space that I love being in. So it's just a really cool thing to see the way that you grew that as well, and gave yourself the permission to be like, yeah, but I can take these skills and I can also make this.
Yeah, yeah. And it's something that we can not only recognize in ourselves, but we can recognize in the people that we hire, whether it's in our personal lives or our professional lives, because that
Yes.
like those especially the soft skills, there's like the soft skills and there's the hard skills. Hard skills, it's like, do you know how to use WordPress? You either do or you don't, right? But soft skills are those, do you know how to talk to people? Do you know how to communicate? Are you a public speaker? Are you, all of these, are you really communicative? Are you really detail oriented? All of these things are so transferable. It's ridiculous. And not only recognizing that in yourself, if you do like to use your verbiage, if you're like, I'm bored, I want to go do something new, recognizing what you can take and apply to the next thing is huge, but also applying that to the people that you delegate to because you might
Hmm.
recognize that your VA is really detail oriented. Well, maybe you have them build a spreadsheet for you for this new thing that you're, building because you know that they have the detail orientedness that even if they haven't done it before, they can probably figure it out because they have the core basis of the skills that they need. Or, your cleaning lady, because that's the example that I think is easy to go to, she might have never cleaned, the outside of your home, like your front porch, but like maybe she wants to, maybe she'd be open to it. And it's not about expecting the person to do that, but it's about saying, like, hey, I need this done. Would you be interested? You do a great job at what you're doing now. Why
Hmm.
wouldn't I give you the opportunity to go to that next level or try this new thing so that they can expand themselves too and grow within themselves and recognize, like, okay, I'm under this umbrella. I don't have to stay under this umbrella. I can go and do XYZ too. So it not only goes for ourselves, but I also think that it goes for the people that we work with too.
100%. And I'd love to add to that as well. When you're talking about finding people that align for you in life and in business, one of the things that I always found interesting that um, I think we we miss is we go for the people that are just like us. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Because if I'm a hot mess and I hire a hot mess, we now have two hot messes and we're not going anywhere. So I had someone tell me this a long time ago, like look at your weaknesses, look at the things that you don't enjoy doing or you're not the greatest at doing. And when you are looking to bring people in, find people that can fill those spots so that you're creating a full and complete space of the things that need to be done versus, oh, well, I love them because they like all the things I do and they do this the way that I do. But at the same time, then maybe they're missing the exact skill that you don't have and they don't have it. So now you just hired them for that space because they're like, oh, yeah, I'm sure I could do it. And you're like, yeah, I would have said the same thing. And I've done that before, right? Where I brought someone in, I'm like, oh, yeah, they're amazing. And then I'm like, oh, you do not know how to do this at all. Okay, well, that's on me. Because we get excited, right? And we're like, oh, yeah, there's relatability and, they like this, that, or they're really good at this like I am. We're looking for people that are different. Yes, we obviously want some overlaps. We want to be able to communicate, to be able to handle situations and to make sure there's a synergy and there should be those differences, right? I know that if I ever tried to come up with anything for my podcast, like my VA has, yeah, it just wouldn't happen. I would chat GBT it all out and then I would still screw it up because I'd be like, I don't know how to work Canva like that. So, and I've tried, let me just tell you. And I'm like, oh God, that is horrible. I've looked at some of my old graphics and compared to hers and I'm like, oh no, I can't believe I did that to myself. But that's the part of growth and learning, right? But I think that it's really important to recognize the skills that people have that you don't have so that you're putting people in the right spaces as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is something anytime you plan to delegate something or anytime you plan to hire something new, I really encourage everybody to get really honest with yourself and be like, what am I absolutely horrific at. Like truly, in my heart of hearts, what am I just really bad at? And like really just writing those things down. And that might not be what you delegate first, but it will give you a direction of what you can delegate, even if it's not now, but in the future, right? So that's a really good point. And also like recognize whatever it is that you're delegating, like what are the skills that that person needs for that specific thing that you have decided that you're going to
Mm,
delegate, right? Like because I see a lot of people, you brought up Canva, like a lot of people will hire somebody based on that relatability and that personality, and I do believe in culture fit and personality fit as well, like deeply. But if you are strictly hiring someone to make Canva graphics and hopefully make them better than you can make them yourself, chances are you need to hire somebody that knows their way around Canva, right? And like if they don't
yep.
know that, well then like they're probably not going to do a better job than you are just because you relate to them, right? So it's about finding that happy balance of both. But it's definitely possible. But it is honestly, in my experience with hiring, it's like one of the biggest challenges of hiring is finding that culture fit and that personality fit, but also um that skill set fit.
100%. Okay, now so question for anybody that's listening that's like, okay, this sounds amazing. I would love to take 10,000 things off of my plate.
Mhm.
Um, whether it's personal or professionally, but they're like, I have so many things and the money scares me. Where would you
Mhm.
tell someone to kind of start in regards to that?
Look at what takes the most amount of your time. Really do. And everybody hates me whenever I recommend this, but I'm going to do it anyways because I do believe in it. Really look at the time and do a time audit and really look at what it is that you're spending your time doing, whether it's personal or
Ooh.
whether it's professional, because you might be really surprised. And it doesn't have to be a long time. Do 1 week of like, I spent 30 minutes doing this, 2 hours doing this, etc. And you might really get clarity on that thing that you think doesn't take you a lot of time, but actually takes you a lot longer than you anticipate, because then you have to do the literal math behind it and say, okay, this thing, what first off, that I thought took me 2 hours actually takes me 5 or 6 on average.
Yep.
And what does that money look like for me if I'm spending my time doing it? Like, what is my quote unquote hourly rate? If you don't have one, you can figure it out or put a general price tag behind it, right? And then you can say, is this financially feasible or is this financially beneficial for me to delegate this out? And what would that cost me? Because if I can get 6 hours of my time back not doing this thing, now that I know how long it takes me and I know the value behind it, what is it going to cost me to delegate that out? And what could I do with that 6 hours? Right? Because
Hmm.
if you have 6 hours to go and sell your product or, focus on your business more, like you might be able to grow exponentially because you spent $400 a month on a VA to get that 6 hours back. If you spend that 6 hours selling, that might be worth it. So it's about me. It's always a calculated risk, right? But that is the best way in my experience of knowing how to make that calculated risk.
Ooh, and I love this. A time on it. That's like the best thing ever. I'll tell you guys, I actually did this, and I'm a huge component of being able to see where I spend all of my time. So I'm gonna get nerdy on you for just a second. And one of the things that I used to do in the very beginning, and even when I worked in real estate and I was helping other real estate agents, you hear a lot of people talk about time management and blocking your calendar and all that good stuff, right? One of the things that really helped me when I started actually using a calendar, which by the way, now I live by, was color coding stuff.
Hmm.
So what a lot of people will do when they first start doing it, and this doesn't work for everybody, right? But if you're a very visual person, this is going to help you tremendously. So I would take personal time and I would put that on the calendar, and it would be one thing. So doctor's visits for me, for the kids, vet visits, like anything of that. And then it was like meetings that I had with people that were one color. Times that I was supposed to be doing other stuff was another color, and I just color coded everything. And
Hmm.
then when you go back and you look at your week, it's really kind of cool to be like, ew, look at all the personal time that I was taking. Okay, that needs to shift. That was actually a really big one for me because I realized that I was taking more time talking to my kids and handling stuff for them than I was actually spending on my business. And I was like, oh, that's got to stop. We got to put some boundaries around that one. But it's super helpful for you to like visually be able to see, right? And if you're not a visual person, right, you can totally write it down. You can do the time audit, like China's saying, where maybe you have all that information calculated out. But I know that for a lot of people, that is super, super helpful because then not only can you see the amount of hours that you're spending, you're actually going to be able to visually see the entire week. And people, do yourself a favor, be honest. If you
Yes.
spent more than an hour on that task, stretch it down your calendar and put that time in. Don't
Yes.
lie to yourself.
Yes, and truly, like, and everything that I do, I always try to say, like, everything we do is judgment free because whether we like to admit it or not, and this is more so for the business side of things, right? But like, whether we want to admit it or not, running a business is emotional, right? Because like, you're going to beat yourself up because you thought it was going to take you 30 minutes and it took you 3 hours. Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Just write it down because that's in like data is information and data is what's going to give you the power to make decisions that actually make sense. So don't judge yourself. This is a judgment-free zone. Kat and I are safe space and it's totally okay because that's how you get to the solution.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that. Yeah, definitely no judgment here. I did it myself, and I can't tell you how many times I was like, I mean, it was only like 30 minutes over. It's fine. I'll come back to it and I'll update the calendar later. And then what I realized is I really was screwing myself out of what was actually being done. And so I do that to this day. If I do a doctor's appointment and it takes longer, I come home and it gets pulled down on my calendar so I know how much time I ended up spending there, just so that
Yep.
I have a reference of where my time and efforts are going, right? So that I can then make the decision moving forward. Okay, this week was super, super packed with stuff that it didn't need to be. So these next 2 weeks, nothing goes on my calendar but the
Mhm.
stuff that needs to, right? So it's being aware of that and making sure that we're paying attention to that, which means you do have to be brutally honest with
Mhm.
yourself. And I get it. It sucks sometimes, but we do. We have to be okay with being brutally honest if we want to be able to move forward and progress in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
China, you and I could talk strategy and all kinds of things like all day long and like go down the rabbit hole. Like I'm just saying, because this is like my favorite topic. To be on. So, I do have one question, and then I want you to tell everybody, how they can find you. And that one question is, if you were just to talk to the masses, just to give people an idea, time management obviously is really awesome doing this audit. What would be something else that you would like to leave everyone with that you feel like is something that you wish you would have known or you've seen with a lot of your clients and you wish more people were aware of just to, I don't know, flip that light bulb on?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would tell you to, even if you have been told that this is the operational or systems or whatever solution to whatever your problem is, if you tried it and it didn't work, that's okay. But also don't give up on it because chances are that solution that you were given was not tailored to what your actual problem was. It probably wasn't tailored to you and your business and the problem that you're experiencing. And there are so many templates and services
Yes.
and like so much out there that you can buy into. And I'm not saying they're all bad because, like, heck, I sell one, right? Like, but at the same time, like, you may have just bought the wrong thing, not understanding what actual solution you needed, right? Or you may have bought something that was designed for something else and doesn't fit within what it is that you need to get the support that you need, either from that template or from that person. So I encourage you that even if you invested in something to improve your operational life, whether it's personal, professional, or whatever, don't be like, it didn't work and therefore I can never delegate again. I can never invest in anything again because I promise you the solution is there. You just have to find the one that is flexible that you can mold and bend to what solution you need or the person that is the right fit for you.
Oh, mic drop moments. Oh my gosh, that was the best. Yes, like 1000%. Do not get yourself caught in a box. I love that. I need everybody to like write that down and like stick it on your wall, okay? Just because something didn't work for you doesn't mean that you were broken. It just may not have aligned with you for whatever reason that is. I think it is definitely the shiny object syndrome, right? You're like, oh, this is pretty. Oh, that looks like that would solve my problem. And then we get into it and we're like, this is more complicated than I thought it was. I don't like this crap. I mean, and that's the thing is understanding who you are as well, right? I'm a very detail-oriented person, but there are people that are like way more detailed than me, and they'll give me a spreadsheet, and I'm like, no way. Nope, not doing that. So it's understanding and being okay with that. But like you said, definitely finding the solution that works for you. Oh my gosh, that's like the best piece of advice ever. So we're gonna like stamp that somewhere. China, do us all a favor then and tell everybody, where can they find you? How can they follow you? How can they be in your world?
Yeah, so you can find me at bytebodega.com. I am the lady of Byte Bodega. That's Byte as in megabyte bodega.com. I have a blog with lots of operational nerdiness that is hopefully like dubbed down on the nerdiness level that's actually understandable so you can enjoy it over there to help you run things more smoothly. You can follow me on Instagram at byte_bodega. There's lots of fun reels, operational chaos over there that you can follow along with. And I also have a free guide that will help you understand what kind of support you actually need in your business if you need business support. It's called the CEO's Guide to a Chaos-Proof Business, that it will outline real life situations, not like, oh, if you don't know how to write an SOP, but like, hey, my VA is going on mat leave and I'm panicking and I don't know what to do. Those kinds of problems. And it's going to point you in the direction of what area of your business you actually want to focus on to get that support and get that momentum behind a more chaos-proof business, I guess.
I love that. And of course, we'll have all the information in the show notes. We'll make it super simple. Thank you so much for providing that freebie. I think that's phenomenal. Anytime that anybody can do an audit in any, like you definitely should take advantage of it because you'd be surprised where you learn things or you're like, oh, well, I didn't know that that was an issue. I thought I had that under control. So thank you so much, China, for all that information and for sharing everything that you did today. I feel like this is just something that can be used across the board when we think about how we want to live our life.
And choosing what you want to prioritize and what it is that you want to spend your time doing. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so
100%.
much for having me, Kat. I really appreciate it. This was so much fun.
Yes, you are so welcome. To everybody else out there, I hope you were taking notes. I hope you wrote some of this stuff down, especially that last nugget, like mic drop. Go ahead, make sure, like I said, write that down, stamp it somewhere on your wall and your computer so that you are paying attention to that. You are not broken, but definitely I think that if you are looking for solutions, whether it is personal or professional, we have to look at where we are spending all of our time. We are not meant to work ourselves to death, and you're giving other people the opportunity to do something that they love, that they're really great at. I know me, I don't want to be great at everything. I know what I like now, right? So being able to relinquish that little bit of control, you'd be amazed how much freedom and how much better you feel about what it is that you're doing and what you're building. So go find China, go follow her, get her her freebie so that you can do the audit in your business. And until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable